people think from time to time I don't like certain people. I don't like Russell Westbrook's half-court game. He's probably a wonderful guy. It drives me crazy.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't like the neediness of Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a smart guy and a wonderful quarterback. But I do think about it that if I ran into Aaron or Russell, they wouldn't like me, and I totally get that. Andy Dalton once ran into me, and I called him the beige water pistol for a decade. And he was really, really sweet. But Rodgers is a fascinating person because he really does project a lot. He had another one this week.
Yeah.
When he said,
go ahead.
Apparently they're doing discussions. I'm not involved, which is interesting. And I thought, it's interesting. Aaron, you're so smart, but you lack a basic self-awareness that you are projecting constantly, passive-aggressively. And it's why, I've said this about Aaron. We give too much credit to talent. What really separates Mahomes is his self-awareness. He's so effing good at the podium. He is such a good teammate. He almost never, ever compliments himself. The talent thing, I think that Mahomes is gifted. But I think when I talked to Sean Payton, I went to dinner with him, spent 4 hours with him. Sean Payton told me that they flew in to Lubbock or whatever godforsaken town he played college football in.
Yeah, they wanted to draft him. But go ahead.
After the workout, they brought in information they thought would overwhelm him and would take 3 days. Within 2 hours, he had digested it and was vomiting it out to them. He said, it's the smartest player I'd ever interviewed. We got on a plane. We told nobody we were there. And Sean said, it was the greatest quarterback I'd ever worked out or gone to a whiteboard. And that where Mahomes is underrated, his ability to consume information, see things, and let go of the ball instinctively is the greatest I've ever seen. I think Josh Allen has a stronger arm. I think Lamar is faster. I think Kyler Murray is almost more elusive. I think above the shoulders, Mahomes is almost a performance artist. He's Prince. The world looks different.
His dad was on, I'll mention second Danny Parkin shout out, but his dad was on Danny's radio show a couple days ago and said the reason Mahomes counted on his fingers when he scored a touchdown against the Bears was because the Bears told him, we're drafting you at 3. And then they traded up for Trubisky and Mahomes was crushed because he really wanted to go to Chicago. But in that same interview, and I'd never heard anyone say this, he said that Patrick has an eidetic memory, which I just Googled what that meant, which is basically
eidetic imagery.
Yes, and that you can see something once and then always be able to pull it back, which I'd never heard someone say that about him. And maybe that's a dad, embellishing about his kid. I don't know. But if that's true or something close to it, and what, you're saying Sean Payton told you, it does. Now, all of a sudden you have let me give you for instance, LeBron has the highest basketball IQ I've ever seen, plus kind of the perfect body for basketball. It's like, hey, I want to play 20 years in the NBA. It's like, okay, you're going to have to be big enough to withstand injuries. You know what I mean? Tall enough to play. It's like, okay. So it went check on like a brain thing and a body thing that leads you to this, right? Mahomes has the physical gifts of like the crazy arm angle stuff and the arm strength from playing baseball. So that's like the physical stuff check. The memory thing that now we've had Sean Payton talk about, his dad talk about, it feels like we have contemporary evidence from seeing how he plays.
Yep.
Like, there might have been like 2 genetic lottery things where it's like the in a same way that Michael Phelps like has the webbed fingers and toes. It's like, So it's like, it's not just that you worked so hard and all these things. You also happen to be kind of blessed specifically for this type of greatness.
Yes.
And so, because there is an element with Patrick, and I think you want to talk Rodgers. We can talk Rodgers too. But with Patrick, he can, with the exception of like a 3-week stretch during last season, he can instantly figure out what the defense is doing and within a half adjust if need be, in a way that I've seen very few quarterbacks ever consistently be able to do. And the only one that I've seen be able to do it at this level is Manning. And Manning's problem is, listen, he's one of the 3 best quarterbacks ever. But for Peyton, what I think hurt him a bit was he had that ability and almost couldn't turn it off, to where if guys weren't where they were supposed to be, or guys he didn't have the improvisational abilities that Patrick has, which are as good as anyone I've ever seen. As good as anyone I've ever seen. What do you think's going to happen with Aaron?
I think Green Bay ideally wants to send him to the Raiders, because with Peyton and Russ, Herbert and Kellen Moore, and Andy and Mahomes, he'll finish in 4th place. And so if Jordan Love is bumpy initially, which Aaron was in his first year, that, Minnesota's not going 11-0 in one-score games. Chicago's still awful, and Detroit's still Detroit, although they're better. That I don't think they know quite yet what Jordan is, but if they can get another first-round pick, address their tight end situation, edge rusher, and get supplemental picks, right? Yeah. That if the Jordan Love situation's a little bumpy, Aaron's not crushing.
Lighting the world on fire. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think they want to move off, and I think this is why the Raiders right now are holding on to Derek Carr. That the Raiders may be saying, the Raiders don't want to give up as much. I think Green Bay has leaked already publicly. All this stuff gets out, Nick, because somebody wants it out. Yep. They've already leaked AFC.
Yep.
Aaron even said it. Well, they're talking about me. So Green Bay wants it out to the league, not Aaron. We are ready to move off him. Their takeaway is, we don't exactly know what Jordan Love is, but what we don't want is Favre to the Vikings good, at least for a year.
Correct. And listen, the Jets obviously want him. They hired Hackett. But I think Jets Raiders are obviously the leading contenders. Here's my question. Let's say Rodgers does go to the AFC. Honest question here, and then I'll give you the possibilities. Does that make Dak Prescott the 2nd-best quarterback in the NFC? Like, is Jalen 1? And Jalen, by the way, I still think has some real question marks, but I give him credit for what he's done.
Stafford.
The problem for Stafford, though, is he's got an elbow and a spine injury, and he's older. Like, I mean, and even the year he won the Super Bowl, he led the league in picks and pick sixes. Like, and even if he is good, I think that team's not going to be good. Like, I was thinking about it. I was like, I mean, Kyler has a torn ACL, is a pain in the ass, and nobody seems to like him. Justin Fields is a great runner. We've seen nothing. Like, I was just going down the list of NFC quarterbacks because Jerry came out and was like, we want Dak for the next 10 years. And I'm like, man, in the AFC, if Dak were your quarterback, you'd say we have to upgrade. In the NFC, you say he might be the best quarterback left in the conference in a few months. It's crazy. It's crazy, the level of discrepancy between quarterback talent in the two conferences. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I think, would be clearly the best quarterback in the NFC. And I don't know if he is top 5 in the AFC right now.
Well, Mahomes would be. Allen would be.
Burrow
would be.
Lawrence,
Herbert, Trevor Lawrence.
Lamar, maybe. Deshaun, to see if he ever gets it back. We're at 7.
Listen,
it's
Tannehill.
crazy.
Tannehill goes to Carolina tomorrow. He's no worse than third.
I know.
In
That's
the
what's
NFC.
Insane. I mean, I don't know if Tua's going to play again. I don't think he's that great. He would be in the discussion over there. I mean, it is bananas. Like, it's such a discrepancy. I feel like the NFL, like, has to behind the scenes be like talking about like, what do we do here? Because we can't. We need to find a way to get. Now, I think they're probably thrilled Chicago got the number 1 pick, but the problem is Chicago's not going to take a quarterback. Are they calling the Bears like, you have to trade that pick to an NFC team? Like, you can't have it. It's
networks,
crazy.
Networks in the last several years. Remember when, because the AFC's always had the smaller markets.
Yeah.
Except Boston. The NFC's always had the bigger markets. St. Louis became Los Angeles, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta. Whereas the AFC's got a lot of Cincinnati's,
Kansas City,
Nashville's.
Jacksonville. Yeah.
Right. And so for several years ago, Fox started losing occasional games to CBS, and the league said, we're going to even it out.
Yep.
Now, they're still doing that, but Fox will probably get an increased number of AFC games.
Because you need it's a quarterback league. And they didn't mean for it to happen this way. But like, right. I know this much. They need Caleb Williams to the NFC. They need that.
Well, yeah. Listen, for years and years, you know how I love theories and figuring stuff out. The jigsaw puzzle of sports. For 20 years, I couldn't figure it out. Why the F is the Western Conference always better than the Eastern Conference? And I had weather theories. The West has better weather. Players don't like these Eastern turbulent flights, cold weather, off a plane, because Miami gets good players. So I thought, well, maybe it's a weather thing. And then Mark Cuban said something to me one time, and he said the West has way better general managers outside of Miami. That's why Miami engineers better trades. They've got a great general manager. And by the way, and then Boston got good with Danny Ainge, who now moves west. And that sometimes it's just, so the truth is the AFC has had better GMs make better picks on quarterbacks. By the way, Howie Roseman, great GM, found Jalen Hurts in the second round.
For sure.
Les Snead went and engineered a deal to get Matt Stafford. The AFC is hit on more of the quarterback picks, better GMing.
And I also think that you had Brady obviously went to the NFC. Rodgers was there. Breeze was there. And it was kind of being propped up by the last 3 years by these much older quarterbacks, 2 of which have now retired and 1 might be leaving the conference. And it puts him in a really rough spot. A really rough spot. Like, you know who they really would like to be a star is Trey Lance. You know what I mean? Like, God, because they spent that draft pick on him. Like, it's a tough spot, man.
If Mac Jones is a Niner quarterback, they beat Philadelphia potentially.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because he's just a distributor. The knock on Trey is he's not accurate. That's why Shanahan liked Kirk Cousins. Like Matt Ryan,
buddy,
preferred Mac Jones.
It was almost your worst nightmare because if he wasn't a Ram, he might have ended up being a Niner. Baker Mayfield. Could you imagine if that was Baker Mayfield coming to the rescue in that game instead of Josh Johnson cutting up the Philadelphia Eagles going to the Super Bowl? It would have been legendary.